Welcome to episode 3 of the NETworK. I am Nathan Lewitt, here with Trevor, Easton, and Caden. To begin this week off, we have some key upsets we feel like that need to be spoken about. To start off, we have the Chiefs versus the Ravens, which was a game that was going back and forth and was essentially decided over turnovers, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'll start off. I am not mad, but just disappointed.
No, you're mad.
I'm a little bit mad, but it's mostly disappointment because
Should have seen him at the game.
I was
Jumping up and down,
yeah,
saying some colorful words.
If you've ever watched a Chiefs game with me, you know that I get pretty into it, and this game set me over the limit because, our defense just could not stop Lamar Jackson. And I'll give Lamar Jackson credit. He took the Chiefs defense and just toyed with them. I can't believe Steven Spagnuolo, who is a respected defensive coach, who beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl with the Giants, could not figure out how to stop Lamar, and it was frustrating to watch for the entire game because, man, he broke our ankles and just made us look silly. Caden, you want to take over?
Well, real quick, from everything I've seen in watching football, the double, triple, and quadruple option is the hardest thing to cover as a defense.
Yeah.
Well, because you're second guessing everything because you don't know if he's going to hand off the running back.
Well, and as soon as you make – and by the time you have to make your option as a defense, they've read what you've done, and they're already on the other side of the field.
But it's Lamar Jackson. There's a
absolutely,
good chance that
Well, let's not act like
that.
he's easy to stop. He's not easy to stop. There's a reason he's an MVP, unanimous MVP in this league. And I just don't know if the Chiefs have the personnel on defense to compete.
They're not dynamic enough for that.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't have the players. They're not that talented on defense.
The Chiefs are set up for a strong secondary.
We've known that too. That's what holds the Chiefs.
That's what happens when you give a quarterback $50 million a year. You're also paying Tyreek Hill, and you're also paying Travis Kelce. You have that O-line. You just gave Joe Thuney a bag in free agency to come play guard for you. You traded for Orlando Brown. He's going to need a contract. You spent first-round draft pick capital on a running back who's not even good. What have you really invested in the defense? Yeah, you got Tyrann Mathieu. You have Chris Jones. Who else do you got? You got L'Jarius Sneed, who just so happened to be a pretty good player that you found. Because you just don't – at that point, you haven't invested capital in the draft, and you don't have the salary cap to go out and get those free agents on defense. So you're going to look pretty rough defensively. It's going to be on Patrick Mahomes and that offense to score, and you're asking for your team to outscore other teams. And the thing is, the Ravens, they crafted up this perfect recipe to stop Tyreek Hill. And so they left your guy Patrick Mahomes with Kelce, and that was it. Because they don't have the weapons. They don't have those other weapons on the team. Mecole Hardman,
Pringle scored, and Demarcus Robinson scored.
But so as far as consistently getting open throughout the game, when Mahomes really needed to pick up yards, those guys were not there. And we saw what Clyde Edwards-Helaire did at the end of the game. It was a great play by Owe for the Ravens, knocking that ball out and recovering it. But you just can't do that in that situation.
That was a tap, not a knockout.
That's a very big man.
But he got it. Doesn't matter. He got it out and he got back on the ball.
Let's not act like that's hard, easy to hold on to. But that's your job as a running back,
to hold the ball,
especially that late. That's exactly what they're asking for. It's almost unthinkable. You're like, it'd be so crazy if they got a fumble here, but you're not expecting it. You would never bet on that because that's the running back's job in that situation. Just get two hands on the ball.
If you ask me, I was for sure thinking they're just going to run up down the middle, run the clock out to 3 seconds, kick field goal, be done with it. That's what I thought they were going to do.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
They got too fancy with it. I bet they were trying to go for a touchdown.
I don't think it was fancy. They were doing exactly what they wanted to do.
You don't think they were going for a touchdown? Because they ran the same play that they did with Damian Williams in the Super Bowl. It was that same play, the same run design, the same play. The offensive line just couldn't create the hole for Clyde Edwards.
But to run a running play, you're not getting fancy by running a running play.
Controlling the clock.
Now, I definitely think they were trying to get good field position. If they could have scored, then great.
Yeah, obviously,
but running it to the outside.
But they were planning on getting a last-second field goal.
They're not trying to stop the clock because if they stop the clock, then Lamar's got time to go back and score.
Well, you can't just in a situation where you're trying to keep the clock going. You're not always just going to be able to run inside. Is that what you're saying? Why they run outside?
Yeah, no. Why was that the play called a run outside?
Because
other
everyone's expecting you to go in the middle if you're trying to drain the clock. That's where there's guys in the box right there. Try to get to the outside. And I don't think the play calling is a problem. I just think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is extremely untalented to be a starting running back.
I never liked that pick. When he got drafted, I was like, I don't agree with the pick because I think we should have got the safety on the Buccaneers who was drafted.
Antoine
Winfield, yes. I think the Chiefs should have gotten him other than Clyde Edwards because we already had Damian Williams and Darrell Williams, Darrell Williams is he's really good when we need him. So I don't understand why I hate bashing Clyde Edwards because he did rush for 800 yards last year as a rookie, which it's pretty good, but
really? Is it? Because that's like 30 yards a game.
But okay, let me finish my thought. So I've never liked that pick. I didn't agree with it because we already had two solid running backs, and Damian Williams basically put us on our back on the Super Bowl with the run game, and with Nick Bosa on the other side too. But again, with your take about Tyreek Hill getting locked up, it's the thing about the Chiefs' offense, and it's known that if you double up Tyreek Hill, there will always be one other person, Kelsey, being that big one. But then you'll have Pringle and D-Rob that will just pop out of nowhere and catch the ball when it needs to be caught for a first down.
And I think those guys needed to step up more, and they did it.
Yeah, because we got rid of Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins was that guy.
You couldn't keep him.
I know, but
because you're putting a lot of cap in those three guys. Really those five guys, and now 6 with Joe Thuney. But Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, Chris Jones, and Tyrann Mathieu. You really don't have a lot of cap space to spread around after that.
But even just the doubling up on Hill, they were covering that secondary pretty well that entire game.
I wouldn't say that well because Pringle's touchdown was...
I mean, that was good. That was one moment they got exposed. But for the entire game, it seemed Mahomes had to, more than not, he had to check down to the tight end position.
And DeMarcus Robinson was a touchdown. It was one-on-one in the end zone. Those two... I would think the Ravens' secondary got stops like more in the midfield, but then once it stretched out and Patrick Mahomes kind of extended the play a little bit.
When they weren't blitzing, that's when Mahomes succeeds the most. Well, yeah, because when they weren't blitzing, they were covering the tight end and running back position more.
Really, I don't know. You had to really pick your poison facing a quarterback that talented. And all I'm saying is that...
And we're not bashing the Chiefs, because, I mean, we know what they can do. This is one loss. Against a good Ravens team. The Ravens aren't like the Jets or the Panthers, but, I mean...
Okay, the Panthers.
I'll pick
the
Jets.
They got a pretty good defense.
Yeah. I'll pick the Jets when they come up, too.
Oh, my God. You know what I mean. But to wrap this thing up, I think the Chiefs are going to go in the route that the Buccaneers did. You know, in the beginning of the season,
there's a chance.
In the beginning of the season, because the Buccaneers last year,
finish good.
Yeah. So the Buccaneers last year when they lost to the Saints,
or at least you got to hope.
Yeah, I mean we got to hope.
I think you're just being optimistic that your team gets hot at the right time. Who doesn't want that to happen for their team?
But here, let me finish. So the Saints, when they beat the Buccaneers at the beginning of the season, everybody was saying the Bucs are going to take a while to develop, and they're probably not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Am I correct?
Okay, but time out. The Bucs had a new quarterback and a new tight end.
No, but I'm asking.
They had
a lot of new people.
They had a sus out of bunch.
Playing it for a while.
I know, but
why are you saying they didn't warm up?
I'm about to say you had this question when it came to the Packers.
Because
except for the Packers had excuse, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team who had just about everyone they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
They all took the offseason together.
But
why are these games as close as they are?
Because I think Andy Reid is a Hall of Fame coach, hands down. And Steven Spagnuolo are going to hold their cards right and win whenever it's the right moment. See, the Buccaneers lost 5 games last year.
Okay, but go back to my point.
You can't really compare.
Pretty much everyone on the Chiefs, like their main people.
But they can still hold their cards in and
true.
But
that's not the reason that
you can't compare the Chiefs right now to the Bucks
last
But we
year.
know what Tom Brady could do. Tom Brady won 6
We-
Super Bowls.
But we knew what
following
Tom
that
Brady
year-
could do with Gronkowski. We didn't know what Tom Brady could do with the rest of that
Well, let's
offense.
not
Tom
like
Brady-
Gronk-
no, but-
Well,
Tom Brady has been without Gronk. Let's not
true.
act like he's not a great quarterback.
But
at that point,
when they
no, at
both
that
went
point in
there,
his
they were
career-
the only two we knew worked well together.
Well, but in that point in his career, Tom Brady was kind of kicked out of New England because he just didn't play that well that year. That defense was carrying him. He gets to Tampa Bay, turns it into Tampa Bay, and that was a stacked roster. Let's not act like that wasn't a great team.
And he's had
But there were growing pains there, and that's what we're saying. The Chiefs are established. They know their
Like
chemistry.
Ty-
He knows that system.
Tyreek
Tom
Hill-
Brady had to learn that without a preseason, with the COVID camp. He had to learn that system kind of in the middle of the season. So I don't think it's comparable.
Like, if you
But
have-
I also don't think that this is any cause for concern. I just think if they played a good team, they lost, and it can be that simple.
Yeah, it could be.
Could
but,
be,
But I
but
mean,
might not be.
But I think the Chiefs will develop more and more as the season progresses. That's what I'm kind of getting
Well,
into.
every team's gonna do that.
Well, I mean, look at okay.
Every team's
They're gonna.
It's only the second game of the season.
Well, some teams fall apart towards
Yeah,
the end, like the
that's true,
Steelers.
right? The Steelers fell apart whenever they were undefeated, and I know they didn't play the best teams, but they still just fell off. They lost. Did they lose every game since that undefeated? No, they won another game.
They were like one in. They were one
I don't
in
think
five
that's an
last
important
year.
detail.
Yeah, that's not important, but I think the Chiefs will learn as the season goes. Their defense will not look like couch cushions and more. They'll form into a brick wall. I think they're going to be solid. I think they're going to.
I don't think you'll have the talent to be
This is
solid
gonna
on
be,
defense.
this is going to be a learning. This is going to be a learning game for them. Now they have to be like, okay, we can't just play every game like we're going to play Tom Brady, who barely runs the ball.
But they didn't do that. I'm sure that
No,
they're
I'm talking
not
about-
stupid. They know they're playing Lamar Jackson. They know that they had a game plan to stop him. Obviously, that was
No,
in their game.
They had no idea.
No, they
how to
definitely game planned to stop him. They just couldn't because they don't have the players to do that.
It wasn't the right game plan.
They don't have the players. They're linebackers.
You know what?
They're not built to
Okay.
do that.
Another thing, the offensive line for the Ravens really helped Lamar out that game because
Oh, absolutely.
They
Because
shut-
when you're
they shut
using the
down Chris
quarterback,
Jones.
when you use the quarterback to run, that's a whole nother blocker you have using the running back and potential fullback if you got him out there. So that when he eventually needs to take that option to run, he's usually open.
And what's interesting is that they were all backups. Their whole starting linemen
And they
were
looked
hurt.
they looked
And what
like
does that say about
they
the
look like
Chiefs'
veterans.
defense?
Week 2 though, I think they'll progress.
What does that say about the Chiefs' defense?
It's not. Well, I've already said it's soft. I didn't say it was. It's gonna develop.
But I just don't understand how you can say that they didn't game plan for Lamar Jackson. Everyone knows you have to game plan for him.
Okay,
It didn't
I will
look like
say-
they did.
Like, obviously, you have to. You just don't have the talent to play him. You can't.
Yeah, and I agree with Kate in there.
Then how come he was 8-8 last year?
The game.
Excuse me?
And didn't win as much as last year as they did the year before.
Because other teams do have the talent to do that. But the Chiefs, Anthony Hitchens being your best linebacker,
He's not. Oh yeah, it is.
he probably is. I mean,
I think
that's.
Nick Bolton is last.
And then Chris Jones, can you name someone else on that D line that's really good? I mean, Frank Clark is kind of out of his prime. He doesn't look the same as he did 2 years ago.
But they did have. I know it's pulled up right now. Daniel Sorensen, who
played well.
He's clutch. He's clutch when we need him. But
He most missed tackles in week 2.
Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen when you play Lamar.
Yeah.
yeah, because he's gonna snap your ankles, and he did it. I think
I think
back in 2019
I
when we
think one of
played
the biggest problems
Lamar-
the Chiefs have right now is open field tackling.
one-on-one tackle.
I don't know. I think their biggest problem was that they played Lamar Jackson.
Well,
Yeah.
okay,
It's
and
hard
you
to
know,
get him in the open
and you
field.
know what's something else that makes it difficult to tackle a quarterback is that when the D line is out there and the secondary is out there pursuing the quarterback on a run, they have in their mindset that I got to play him differently because they're terrified of getting penalties because they have to hit the quarterback differently.
I think
Which I know
when
you
they turn
don't-
to a runner.
when they turn into a runner, that is usually out the window,
Mm-hmm.
but mentally they still think that, so they hit softer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know some defenders in this league. They see that quarterback start running.
Yeah.
They take that as an attack, like an attack on their defense, and they take that chance to hit them as hard as they can.
On a similar subject, we have the Titans and Seahawks game, which was decided down to the very last second. It was a really good fought game by the Titans. That was a fun one to watch.
Well, let's not even act like it was the Titans. That was Derrick Henry.
Showing up in the second half, which he usually does. If you have him in fantasy, you know that he gets very minimal points, 10, 12 points in the beginning.
It's average points.
And then he starts to pop off. He gets momentum, and then he can't stop.
So Julio Jones went off that game too.
Yeah,
He did well. A.J. Brown didn't really do anything.
No.
Do you see Julio taking over A.J. Brown's wide receiver 1 spot after that game?
I think that there was a misconception this offseason probably as far as where Julio Jones was in his career and his prime. So I think Julio Jones might just be the wide receiver 1, which is not what I thought.
It might not be a full replace, but you'll definitely see him alternating back and forth between that position
Julio
next.
will get more
targets?
Because more targets than A.J. Brown. Because that Julio Jones, we can't.
I don't know. I bet you they'll still start Brown, but they'll start.
Obviously, you don't start one wide receiver, obviously, but they'll both be out there. But I think it will be interesting to see who gets more targets. And right now, it's looking more like Julio.
Or you put them both out there.
He had a really low catch rate this week, though. Let's not act like A.J. Brown didn't get his targets. He got targets. He just had a really low catch rate this week. I think it was around 40%.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Adams. Jamal Adams had a big part of that, too, I think.
Yeah, Brown was targeted 9 times and had 3 catches.
Yeah. But you can't forget, Julio Jones, obviously a Hall of Famer.
Easily first ballot.
Yeah, first ballot Hall of Famer. And, I mean, Ryan Tannehill needs to abuse that a little bit more than you should. He did that last week, but he needs to continue to do it.
For me, I think I saw exactly what I expected when I picked them last week. Because I kind of went back and forth, but I said I thought the Titans' offense would kind of find their way.
They definitely took advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah, the Seahawks were blowing them out in the first half, and then...
Well, because that defense is pretty god-awful.
Yeah, and then they scored 21 points in the second quarter. And
all on Derrick Henry's back.
Yeah.
Something that I thought was really interesting, and I'll talk more about when we get into our fantasy segment of this week. Derrick Henry had 41 touches, and that was more passing attempts than Ryan Tannehill, who had 40.
A big part of that is because they went into overtime, too.
But I'm just saying, to have your running back take on more touches than your quarterback had throw attempts, that's pretty wild and pretty unheard of.
Yeah, how you were saying they were blowing them out in the half. Seattle had 3 touchdowns in the second quarter.
All because of Tyler Lockett.
But only had
popping off
2 field goals in the second half and didn't score in overtime.
Yeah. But Tyler Lockett, I thought DK Metcalf was going to be the one to pop off this year. I thought Tyler Lockett was going to be in his shadow a little bit. But he just finds a way to... He burns people. And Russell Wilson hits him, obviously. And it's a dime. Russell Wilson, I can't believe he can still make those throws. But
that's not like he's an old man. Yeah. He's not that old.
He's getting there.
He's getting out there with his walker and throwing
that
ball.
He's in that quarterback prime age. He's in that fine wine age.
Yeah,
he's having fun at this time.
But I'm impressed of Russell Wilson.
He's still got something to prove.
Yeah, I mean, he's done this. He did it last week, in week 1, too, to Tyler Lockett.
I think a big part of that is DK Metcalf physically is the more attention-grabbing guy on that team. So you have to, your coverage, you're going to game plan more around DK Metcalf than you will Tyler Lockett, and that probably leaves Tyler Lockett open for those deep bombs a little bit more.
You see that a lot, especially in college.
Oh,
yeah. That's when he played with A.J. Brown, so funny enough.
Yeah.
So moving on from the key upsets from this week.
Actually, I want to say something. Sorry, but the Titans' defense is still trash, and that's why they're going to lose in the playoffs and the wild card. I'm sticking by that.
Okay.
Alrighty then. Well, once again, moving away from these key upsets, one of the big comebacks this weekend, and evidently sounds like we're talking about the Chiefs and the Packers every weekend now, but they've been key people to talk about. But the Packers came back big this past weekend.
Yeah. As a Packers fan, I was happy to see it for a minute there. I was pretty disappointed in the Packers.
I was kind of worried up until the half.
Yeah, after halftime, I felt pretty good about it. But, I mean, it's the Lions. I can't be that excited. I am happy to see that our offense looks to have got their footing in.
Absolutely.
I think our
they look like the offense
rough.
they're used to.
Aaron Jones had a big part
of
that.
They got Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator.
Well, that's the hire we made.
Joe Barry.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of miss Mike Pettin. I don't know if firing him was the right move. I know he made some questionable calls in the NFC Championship last year. But overall, I thought our defense was pretty good.
That's what that game was more on the players than the coach. I feel like
This past game?
no, the NFC.
I disagree because they had a single coverage towards the end of the half, I think, with
true.
Scotty Miller. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I kind of had to see the Packers win. I know I picked the Lions just kind of out of spite last year. Last week because I was mad. I had a feeling the Packers would win. They're a way more talented roster. I'm kind of concerned about the defense, and I feel good about the offense.
But they seems like they patched a bunch of holes this game, especially after that half. The defense.
Yeah, I would agree. They look better, but against Jared Goff and those weapons, I kind of know.
The secondary looked
more.
better. They held them to only 2 touchdowns, which I believe. No, both those touchdowns were on the air.
Yeah, we should have
But-
won the second half.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
and they get an interception. That's definitely a positive from where they were.
Well, Jared Goff is throwing the ball, so.
Well,
Yeah.
true, but
Yeah, they couldn't.
this was also the game to get them into stride for what's coming
No,
up.
I like to see this before we get into the harder part of our schedule because if you look at our schedule, it is tough coming up.
Yeah, we play 49ers this Sunday.
Yeah, and we got the Steelers after that, and
Debo's
then
gonna give you guys problems. I feel like
I disagree.
He's
Jared always locks down the number one guy,
Jared Alexander.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
but Brandon Ayuk might
Jared
be
Goff in the first half it reminded me of 2018 Jared Goff. Whenever he went to the Super Bowl, his throws were on point to Hawkinson a lot, and it was kind of good to see. But then he got shut out, threw lots of interceptions, and then fumbled the ball. If you have Hawkinson in fantasy and you needed a couple more points in that last quarter, he probably wouldn't have got the job done because he just fumbled the ball and threw an interception a lot.
So with this comeback of the Packers, they also brought tons of fantasy points to the fantasy league this weekend. Aaron Jones had 41.5 points. Aaron Rodgers had 26.8 points, which were
That's Aaron Rodgers' consistent numbers, but Aaron Jones.
that was a lot for Aaron Jones.
That was a lot for Aaron Jones.
For a running back.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping Devontae would have got some of that work since he's on my fantasy team. But
Hey, Devontae have a lot of yards though.
he did have a good game, just not really having the touchdowns like we saw throughout pretty much his entire career.
I think, yeah. Again, I think they're gonna save him. Make sure he's healthy for throughout the season. Kind of throw it to him when the Packers really need him. So
Someone I wish that would kind of pop off would be Randall Cobb again, because
Why are we talking about like a 33-year-old wide receiver?
if Randall Cobb can get back up there, that'd be 2 people that I got to worry about.
That's not happening.
that's
That's
not
gonna happen.
I know we're talking
It's
about
gonna happen.
fantasy, but you're in like a fantasy land right now talking about Randall Cobb making
Yeah,
a
it's gonna
resurgence.
happen. Randall Cobb
But then-
popping off the.
Another person that did well in fantasy this week is Derrick Henry, who had 45 points in fantasy last week.
47.
47 points, and I had a 20% win percentage, and every time he got the ball, and he kept on running the ball as the yards went up, my win percentage kept on going up, so I was very happy to see that, and it's pretty expected of Derrick Henry. If you had him last year on your fantasy team, you knew that he had like 10 or 12 points in the first quarter, and then he just popped off in the second half.
Well, I have something to say about that actually.
Okay.
I think if you have Derrick Henry, the king, you should sell high on him while you
Heck
can.
no.
Absolutely,
Heck no.
you should. He's getting elite usage, which for running backs in a new 17-game season, I believe that to be unsustainable. I believe 41 touches in a single game is unsustainable. I believe at his build and his height, that amount of carries is unsustainable. That body will not hold throughout this year.
But
disagree with
he
you so heartily.
is the
Disagree.
leading rusher from last year.
Cool. More miles on his body. Thanks for helping me.
So, that doesn't matter. He's a different.
He had more carries and touches than Tannehill had throws. That's gonna catch up with you. I'm sorry.
No,
I cannot
disagree.
expect.
I disagree.
If that's what you need to win as a team,
Nope.
then you're gonna fall apart, especially in the playoffs because his body will be worn down.
Do you know who?
Nope.
Do you know who King Henry is? King Henry.
Absolutely.
He is a
And
built man who takes care of his body.
well, thanks for saying that because Do you believe he'll be running back 1 this year in fantasy?
Running back, ranked number 1?
Yeah.
Oh, hands down, yes.
Oh, so I think everyone perceives him as about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you know what you could get for him right now? You get so much. You could get.
But you're losing the
That-
top price.
You know what he did last year in fantasy.
What are you gonna trade him
I think
for?
he has a lot.
You think?
Example.
Give me the
Okay.
wide receiver and tight end 1. Give me something like that. Give me
Trevor.
2 running backs and a wide receiver. Because someone will do that. Someone will do that.
Trevor.
And I would take that every day of the week because if Henry goes down, which I think there's a really good chance with 41 touches a game, in order to win the game, you had to get 40 touches. You can't keep doing that, or you're gonna get hurt. Especially with 17 games, you're gonna get hurt.
Trevor, you have. Let's just say hypothetical. Trevor, you have Christian McCaffrey, and who's a good other running back? That's kind of Montgomery. You have Christian McCaffrey and David Montgomery. Would you give up those 2 for Derrick Henry? You were losing a good running back in Montgomery. You have to put in like Leonard Fournette. Are you taking the risk?
If I was trading for Derrick Henry, yeah, I would want Derrick Henry. But if I was giving up Derrick Henry, I wouldn't want to give
Y'all
up
just
Derrick Henry.
proved his point.
Yeah, no, exactly. You can get a lot for Henry.
Henry.
You can get Henry get a lot for Henry. That's what I'm saying. You can get so much for Henry right now that like you should absolutely do it.
What I'm saying, if I had Henry, I wouldn't be giving him up.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not getting rid of Derrick Henry.
Wow, you can get so much for him.
I know, but
You just said that you could probably get Christian McCaffrey and Montgomery, which
Before-
I don't think you could, but you proposed that. That was something that you said. And what did you say? You were thinking about, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because of Montgomery. So you're kind of agreeing with me. Like, I would not trade a lot for Henry, but if I had Henry, I would take a load to get him out of my team.
I would take like 3 number 1 people for Henry.
yeah, if you traded
I believe you
Derrick,
can get that. I think you can
I
get a
don't
lot.
know.
I
Hells
wouldn't
no.
make that trade.
You could get Dalvin Cook and another, like a solid flex, I think. And I would do that every day of the week.
I'm not taking Dalvin Cook because he was he had to be medically looked at twice last week. I don't know how he was in that game, but he had to be medically looked. He went into the tent and he had to be looked at twice.
Aaron Jones and Zeke for Henry, I'll do it every day of the week.
No.
Yeah.
I would never give up.
Not necessarily in season.
No, yeah, not right now.
Not necessarily in the season.
Maybe not right now, but I feel like the longer you wait for Henry, the more you're going to regret it. Because I'm not wishing this upon him. I like Derrick Henry a lot, but I just don't think you can continue to take on that workload and keep your body like healthy.
But Derrick Henry's not your typical running back.
Oh, absolutely. He's not your typical guy, but it's just, I mean, sure, he's a phenom.
I think he can take the beating and still be okay.
My team personally,
taking that risk,
I
though.
can't. My team
If it was
personally,
Zeke, no. If Zeke was putting up those numbers right now,
He'd be limping right now.
I would be trading him away because I'll be doing exactly what you're saying. But I think Derrick Henry is built enough, strong enough.
he's not
but
gonna have the
the
same
whole
numbers as
entire
last
season.
year, but he's gonna stay consistent with your fantasy team. With my team, I can't risk losing that.
You had Derrick Henry in week 1, right?
But yeah, I
And
did.
how well did he do?
He didn't do well, but I mean it was.
And I feel like it'll be that either like 1 week
it
it'll
was
be
the
like
first
this.
game of the week.
I feel of the week.
It was the first game of the season. I mean, not a lot of running backs.
But we've
did
seen
good.
Derrick Henry just kind of disappear like that in
Aaron
some
Jones
games.
didn't do good, and look what he did.
Yeah, what I'm saying though, if I can get multiple assets in return, I'm doing that. Because it's depth.
What his point being is that you have one wishy-washy player.
He's not wishy-washy.
No,
Let's
no,
not
no,
say
no.
that.
What I mean by that is like one game he puts down low scores, one game he's putting up a bunch of scores, and that can go back and forth.
And not even just that.
But
even if he did this,
So
and
you're
then
trading it out
he's
for three
useless.
people who are doing the same.
Yeah, but
And-
what are your chances of getting 3 people? For
Okay,
one
then you
person?
can get 2 really good players,
Or
even
even that.
Even still, I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do
would
it,
personally
no.
do that.
No.
Someone else might do that.
But-
yeah, 100%.
With my team, I
wouldn't
can't do that because I need Derrick Henry in my lineup.
I
'Cause I picked him
I would.
first.
I wouldn't
Like,
give
I
up
can't-
2
then
good
you're gonna
players.
get those. You're gonna get an
Okay,
asset
okay,
on
but
that same
time out,
level
time out,
back.
time out. Who's gonna give up 2 good players for 1 good player though?
Someone
Exactly.
that really wants Derrick Henry, like if you like, okay, say like right now, what would you trade for Derrick Henry? I'm sure you
Right
trade a
now,
lot.
I would give Kittle. Kittle is definitely killing me right now. now.
Okay, Kittle and what?
Kittle and probably Antonio Brown.
No, that's a terrible trade. No one should ever listen to that. It's not high. That's not the same level
Exactly.
of assets.
But that's who I'm willing to give up for Henry.
Well, then you're
that's
stupid.
what I think his trade value. That's what his trade
Other
value is
people
for
will
me.
give a lot more for Henry.
Okay,
A lot of other people will.
I think people would have to give up Hawkinson, and we'll just say receivers.
No, you had to get a running back back.
Running back. Okay. To make it fair, Hawkinson, because he's been getting points, and then Chris McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara.
I would do that every day of the week. Maybe not. No, if you gave me, I kind of want 2 running backs. But
because Chris
so you
McCaffrey.
wait. So look, I would honestly rather have McCaffrey than Henry straight up. Like, if I had Henry and I could get McCaffrey, I would do that.
But you're losing another good player that you have to give up to
Because
get Henry.
because I think he'll get
Henry is
injured.
gonna
I think
get-
there's a good chance he's getting injured.
You think Henry's going to get injured this year?
I think there's a very good chance.
Okay.
41 touches. That is insane, and they barely won.
But that's overtime, though. You gotta consider that too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an
Okay.
overtime game.
Okay, still to have 35 in a 17-game season,
So
my
then-
running back shouldn't get more than 20 touches a game at this point.
Okay, but Derrick Henry having 1,200 yards rushing last year. What did he do last?
He had 1,900 yards last year. Like,
1,900
he
yards.
knocked on the door at 2,000. I'm pretty
He
sure.
knocked at the
Or
door.
maybe he did get 2,000. I think
Look
he did
it up.
actually.
Look it up right now, quick.
Because I remember that last game, everyone was trying to make sure. Derrick Henry.
What has his rushing yards been consistently?
Well, really, he's only had 2 amazing years.
Okay.
But he had 2,000 last year. He had 1,500 the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I think the Titans' offensive line isn't looking as good as last year. And I also think Henry he's got like
But this is
he's got
his
like
third
700
year.
carries. This is not his 3rd year.
Okay, getting the amount of yards that, he got high rushing yards twice. Being a professional athlete, you're gonna have to be able to put that on your body, maybe 5 times in a row, to be consistent and be a pro athlete. Because you're not gonna be like
To
2
be
years.
elite, you have to.
Exactly, Derrick Henry's elite, so he has to be.
But he's aging. He is aging. He's 27, which is kind of old for running back. That's on the older end. He has 1,200 carries just in the NFL. Let's talk about what he did in high school and what he did in college, where he racked up all those carries. And now I think his body is going to probably whittle down.
Okay, but time out.
It's gonna whittle down
Your
over
point.
the year.
In high school and in college, he had all those carries. Right now, do you think all that stuff right now is contributing to his game at all?
It's mileage on your body. The more mileage you put on your body,
How come almost every year in the NFL his yards are going up?
Exactly.
because
Explain
exactly.
that to us.
Exactly. It's kept going up. Guess what it has to do now? Go back down.
After
Because that's
2
how things
years.
work.
After
You
2
really
years-
think he's going to keep 2,000 yards years consistently?
No,
Who's done that?
That's what I'm saying. He's gonna.
That's his
going
point.
Way down.
God.
That's his point.
He's going way
Wait,
down.
no one's going to do that consistently. If he has 1,600 yards, this
But that's
year,
what you're-
that's still good.
But if y'all expect him to be running back 1 again, he'll have to do that because he doesn't have the receiving upside. And y'all said y'all expected him to be the running back 1, so you expect him to do that. I never said that I
How
did.
can
Y'all
he
do.
be? How can?
No.
There's no way he can just have 2 good years and then just, boom, he's done.
He's
Yeah,
had more.
There's
than,
no way.
He's had more than 2 good years.
Yeah, he's had some solid years, but he's
How many
old.
years has he been in the league?
He's been in the league 6 years.
6 years. Okay, and he's just been going up. How many yards? Read me how many yards he's had.
So
per
he
year.
started off with 490,
Okay.
740,
Rookie
A
490, yeah.
Yeah.
a
Then he had
grand,
744.
Clyde Edwards had 800. Let's
Okay.
compare that.
and then he
Why
had
are we comparing him to a running back in their
Well, because
second year?
because a rookie. It was. No.
I just
his
don't
rookie
get how
year.
that's relevant. What I'm saying is he has a lot of mileage on his body. He just rushed for 2,000, and now we had another game this season. His offensive line is worse. He's getting the ball more because they can't win without him. He has to do that.
Well, guess what? Who's gonna give him that break now? Julio Jones and
But they haven't.
AJ Brown.
They haven't.
What do you mean? It's two games. They're gonna
But
obviously.
so far, they needed Derrick Henry to get 41 touches to win.
But then Julio Jones also had the amount of receiving yards and the amount of catches that we haven't seen.
So Julio went off last week, right? And he
Last
still had to get 41 touches to win. Barely.
Okay, but then who knows if? I mean, we'll never know. But what if Julio Jones was that guy instead of Derrick Henry?
You think Julio's getting 41 catches?
Well, like more than what he got, like double, like
because the Titans run through that running game. They do, because that's what Ryan Tannehill needs to be good, and that's what the Titans need to be good. They need him to break off those huge runs and to be that dominant runner that can carry on that workload, because they don't have another running back that can do that. And you're not just going to rely on Julio and A.J. Brown to get you through a whole game.
Yeah, I'm not saying...
Because if you are, you're losing, because you need a running game, especially if you're the Titans and you have a bad defense.
We're talking about fantasy. I think teams are going to go into the game. They're going to be blitzing the heck out of them because they're going to know that Derrick Henry's going to be the ball. But they're going to be mistaken because they got Julio Jones coming across the middle, and then they also have A.J. Brown to deal with.
So how does that help? So you're saying the defense will focus more on Derrick Henry, and that'll open up other guys more. How does that help Derrick Henry's value?
Because then they'll start to drop back, and then that's when Derrick Henry succeeds, is when they drop back.
So you're saying that everyone's always going to be playing reactionary defense?
Okay, we're talking about fantasy.
Look at it this way.
That's when the fantasy points will go up.
Look at it this way. As the season goes on, he's going to get less touches.
Of course, because he's got Julio Jones on his team.
No, not his body won't hold up, and he's going to get injured. If you keep him at 41 touches a game, I guarantee you he gets injured.
Even outside of getting
regardless.
Outside of getting injured,
30, I think he'll get injured.
As he starts to play more teams, they are going to focus more on that run game because that's who's been picking apart all the other games they've been playing. At the moment, he has 240 yards for this season. Mm-hmm. In 10 games, he will be surpassing by 400 yards what he made last year.
At this pace.
If he keeps this average, that's not going to happen.
That's not sustainable. So sell him high.
And regardless if he gets injured or if he gets stuffed up and just stops producing that number, I don't want him on my fantasy team all the way out throughout the season because he's not going to be producing those points.
If he's trying to say sell him high and get
trade me Aaron Jones and Kelsey, I'll do it every day of the week.
If other people are going with his mindset, people aren't going to be willing to trade for him though.
That's true. If they're
only
get
rid of Derrick Henry if someone just really, really wants them,
or they see, or they want to take the risk.
I don't want him on my team.
You don't want Derrick Henry?
No.
Where are you at? You've been bouncing around so much, I feel like.
I have not said I wanted Derrick Henry.
He hasn't said he wanted.
So why are you acting like this is a bad take from me? Because if you can sell him high, sell him high. Because that's what you'll get right now. You could get Aaron Jones and Travis Kelsey right now, I bet, for him. And I would do that.
Where he's coming from is that, and I agree, I doubt many people are having this mindset of getting rid of him if they have him. He said he isn't getting rid of him.
No,
but you should consider it.
But in 2 to 3 games, if I were him, I'd be considering giving him up to someone who might want to take the risk that he's going to stay consistent throughout the rest of the season.
And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I'll accept being wrong.
It'll be really interesting.
I like being proved wrong.
It'll be really interesting to see how this plays out later in the season.
Yeah, if I get proven wrong from this, I will totally accept it and move on. But for right now, I want to keep Derrick Henry on my team because I'm going to talk about my fantasy team. I need him, and I'll pull up my team that I have with him right now. Hold on. I have Kyler Murray, Henry, Melvin Gordon, Hopkins, Thielen, Waller, Julio Jones, and the rest we don't need to talk about. Julio Jones is inconsistent. Adam Thielen is good 15 points. He could bounce around. Waller, they won without giving him the ball this week. Kyler Murray and D-Hop I know are going to go off, but Melvin Gordon is going to be dragging me back.
So it sounds like you need depth. And you know how you can get depth? Trade a great player for more good players.
I had a 20% win percentage when I was playing. And then he popped off.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
But he's not doing that every week.
But that's
he's not going to save you every week.
But it's only been 2 games. How can you say that?
Yeah, exactly.
True.
You don't get 182 yards a week unless
but that's an overtime game.
Yeah, exactly.
Trevor, regardless,
you're not gonna
regardless if it's an overtime game or not, he only got 58 the game before.
Yeah, he only had 58, and he has no receiving upside.
Okay, but then he also had. Okay, we're talking about fantasy, not him as the player.
But receiving upside's fantasy. 58 yards is fantasy.
Well, okay, and also, you're not getting points off of this dude from touchdowns.
What?
He had 3.
He had 3 last game.
I disagree with that. I don't know where you're getting that
from. He had
from.
3 last game.
That's
And it's
receiving
75
yards.
touchdowns.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, we're looking at that.
That's receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I
Looking
wish
at the
I had-
wrong stat.
I wish I had Derrick Henry's numbers pulled up from last year's fantasy because he did the same thing last year. I remember because I played the person that had him on my fantasy in his fantasy league or in my fantasy league on his team, and it was frustrating because he wouldn't do good one game, and then he just pop off for 10 weeks straight, and then he wouldn't do good one game, and then he'd just pop off right again and just pick up where he left off when he was doing good. So I think you should consider keeping him for the few weeks to come, and then once you get into the playoffs is when you should, because you're going to need another player other than Derrick Henry to potentially win.
And I
The
think
thing
that's
about
our
that is-
point.
but his value right now, his value is probably the highest it's going to be. After coming off this week, this is the highest his value is going to be. So if you're going to trade him, why not trade him now when his value is at the highest and you get the biggest return for him?
Where he's getting at, in 4 to 5 games from now, if he quits producing, you're not going to get a trade for him.
You're not going to get as good as you could get.
But
right
if
now.
you were to play your poker chips right now, you could get
I
2 or
see
3
that.
really good players for
And
him.
it's just like gambling.
Oh, absolutely. This is 100%
But I feel
what
like
this
Derrick
is.
Henry, instead of putting all my chips into one player, I can put it in a couple. So if Derrick Henry gets injured, has a bad week, I still have these 2 really good players instead that I can put in, and they're not both going to get injured, or they have less of a chance of both getting injured than one guy.
I completely agree with what you're saying, but it's just I can't get rid of Derrick Henry, nor that you should ever get rid of Derrick Henry right now, because I think he'll have
No,
a
I
game
wouldn't
just
do it.
like this.
I wouldn't do it.
In weeks to come.
I wouldn't do it this week.
Then you're not selling high. You have to sell. I'm saying sell high
So
because
you're-
this is the
so
highest his value will be for you, and you can get the most
you
out of him
think
right
this
now.
will be the first? This will be the only time Derrick Henry gets 40 points.
No, I would
'Cause
watch.
I guarantee you,
But
last
it's-
year
Watch-
he got 40 points more than once.
Watch
But it's not
what he
guaranteed
makes.
that he will. Right now, you
Exactly.
know where his value's at. So what I'm saying is he might not do this again. So when his value's the highest, I'm going to trade him.
I would watch the next couple games.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he dips, I would consider it.
It's like the stock market. You just do whenever it's high.
This
and then,
this is exactly what that is.
Mhm.
It's just as volatile.
But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll accept it.
Well, same for me. But all I'm saying is his value's high. Get what you can.
Yeah.
Rolling out of fantasy for the week, we are now moving into our rapid fire predictions for week 3. And to start off, we have the Panthers and the Texans. Caden, what do you got for this one?
I got the Panthers. Tyrod Taylor just went down, so
Green Caden.
Yeah, I'll have to say the Panthers. They're hot. So.
Taking the Panthers as well.
Okay.
And then we have the Chargers and the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
I got the Chiefs bouncing back.
Yeah,
Yep.
Chiefs.
I'm taking Chargers.
Okay.
I can't hate
Why
that.
do you think Justin
Right.
Herbert is going to go off?
Anything's possible at this moment. Then we have the Cardinals and the Jaguars.
I'll take the Cardinals.
Cardinals.
Taking the Cardinals after
Yeah,
what they've been
yeah,
doing.
They'll be good.
Now this might be a fun one. Bears and Browns.
I'll take the Bears in an upset.
I'll take the Browns.
I'll take the Browns. Them being at home.
Mhm.
Justin Fields' first start. Definitely take the Browns over the Bears.
I think I'll take the Browns as well.
Yeah, it's going to be Justin Fields' first start. You said the Browns?
hmm
Okay.
And then we have the football team versus the Bills.
Give me the football team.
I'm going with the Bills. I'm hoping that Josh Allen actually finally pop off the game and help me in fantasy.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bills.
I'm taking the Bills as well. And then Colts and Titans.
Ooh, this would be a good one.
I'm personally taking the Titans.
I'll take the Colts.
I'll take the Titans.
I'm going to take the Titans because
Following up, we got the Saints and the Patriots. I'm taking the Saints.
I'm going with the Saints.
I'm going to go Patriots.
I'll take the
I like
Patriots.
Mac Jones, dude.
Okay. Fountains and Giants.
Fountains?
I'm keeping that in there.
Falcons or Giants?
Give the
That's
Giants.
actually a good game.
That might be a good game.
I think this is Saquon's emergence. I think this is where he'll start to play well again.
I'm going to take...
I'm going to go with the Falcons.
I'm going to go Falcons.
Going Giants.
I got Falcons on that.
I chose the Giants.
Okay.
Sorry, Fountains, to
Falcons.
be precise.
And then the Bengals and the Steelers.
I'm going to take... I like the Steelers.
Steelers, definitely for me.
Taking the Bengals.
I'll take the Steelers.
Next, we got Ravens and Lions.
Ravens.
I'm taking the Ravens.
Ravens.
Coming off of what they did, I'm taking the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And now we got Jets and Broncos.
I got the Broncos,
Saints.
and I think Zach Wilson's going to throw another 4 picks this week.
Yeah.
Actually,
Taking the Broncos as well.
Surtain's gonna take all of them.
Dolphins and Raiders.
Raiders.
The Raiders.
Last time I took the Dolphins, they won. I'm taking the Dolphins again.
Tua is injured.
Yeah.
That is
Shut
true.
out.
That is
And
true.
they just lost 35-0. I'll take the Raiders. and
Yeah, never mind.
2-0.
We'll take the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Game of the week right here. Buccaneers and the Rams.
You think that's the game?
Yes.
I think it is
Definitely.
absolutely.
That is the game.
Okay.
I think the Rams will win. Matthew Stafford is going to have the career high game.
That secondary is looking a little thin.
It's looking thin.
They might sign Richard Sherman apparently, which I think is
Yeah.
a pretty good fit.
The Rams are about to sign.
No, so the Buccaneers because their secondary.
Oh, really?
Or they're looking
Wow.
at it. Well, they're looking into it.
I'll say the Bucks might hurt my defense for fantasy again this weekend,
Just drop
but
them.
I will take the Bucks.
Cooper Kupp is exposing the secondary a lot this year so far.
Yeah, I think the Rams are my pick this week.
I'm going to take the
I'm going
Rams.
to take the Rams.
Then we got Seattle Seahawks and the Vikings.
I'm going to go Seattle.
I'm taking the Vikings.
You know, the Vikings have looked pretty bad so far, but Kirk Cousins looked really good last
They
game.
lost on a missed field goal last week. Against Arizona, I'll take Minnesota.
I'll take the Vikings.
Which, if you ask me, I think the Cardinals are a better team than the Seahawks this season. But so I think the Vikings can pull it off. And then the Packers and the 49ers.
Go Pack, go!
Yeah, I'll take the Packers.
I'm taking the Packers, but I have a feeling it's going to be a stressful game.
Yeah, NFC
Yeah.
Championship rematch from 2 years ago.
I'll take the Packers, yeah.
And then-
Completely different roster.
And then,
Completely different.
Raiders still got Aaron
With
Rodgers.
that amazing...
Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. This is a pretty similar roster,
No, I'm saying
guys.
the 49ers.
They still have a
Okay.
lot of their defensive pieces.
With that amazing running back, Raheem Mostert.
And then
Yeah.
finally we got
There's
the
actually-
Eagles and
wow.
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
I'm
Cowboys.
taking
next time.
Cowboys.
Yeah. I would.
Yeah, I'll take
Eagles
the
are going to keep
Cowboys.
it tight, but then the Cowboys are going to go.
I think the
whoop.
Cowboys are going to have a good season this season.
Yep.
So with the rapid fires out of the way and time not being on our side, we're just NFL's all we're going to be talking about this weekend. Is it now? We're only covering NFL for this episode. But thank you all very much for watching. Next week, either this episode might be airing Thursday afternoon. Not entirely sure yet. If it isn't this week, then it'll be next week. We just kind of want these shows to be coming out before that Thursday night game. Anyway, once again, thank you all for watching. Good night.